Welcome back to The Explainer, the ultimate survivor. Now, if you were hanging out with us for the last installment, you know we traced the epic journey of evolution from the earliest hominids right up to the emergence of Homo erectus. Well, today, we're picking up exactly where we left off. We're diving right back into this thrilling survivor story to see exactly how early hominids morphed into the globe-trotting, super complex modern humans we are today. So, here's the billion-dollar question. How exactly did we go from Homo erectus to literally conquering the globe? To really wrap our heads around our history, we have to figure out how our specific ancestors managed to beat some pretty astronomical odds. I mean, they thrived while other totally capable hominids, like the Neanderthals, well, they ultimately died out. What was our secret weapon? Because, let me tell you, this journey out of Africa wasn't just a casual stroll. It was a grueling, brutal test of survival against some of the most extreme forces on the entire planet. And the absolute biggest hurdle of all? The weather. Earth's climate has literally always been on a roller coaster, totally driven by these crazy wobbles in the planet's orbit. Think about it. 3 million years ago, Africa just starts drying out. Huge grasslands expand, and it essentially forces early humans onto 2 feet. Then, somewhere between 2 and 1.5 million years ago, Homo erectus pops up right in the middle of these massive rapid climate shifts, where freshwater lakes are just filling up and then completely vanishing every 20,000 years. Fast forward to about 135,000 years ago, and devastating mega-droughts completely dried up vital water sources. This intense, boiling crucible essentially forced our ancestors into a stark ultimatum: adapt or perish. So how did we react to that climate chaos? Well, our reaction was everything. Around 2 million years ago, our ancestors' diet became insanely flexible. It was basically a 50-50 split between grasses and a whole mixed bag of other foods, including animal carcasses. And this dietary flexibility was an absolutely brilliant survival strategy. Think about it. When your local lake just suddenly disappears, or your lush forest turns into a total dust bowl, you can't rely on just one type of fruit or one specific prey. Our ancestors learned to eat literally whatever they could get their hands on, which completely paved the way for massive migrations and entirely new behaviors. Which leads us to the super fascinating evolutionary theory called variability selection. The researchers looking at all these wild climate pulses champion this idea. It basically argues that humans adapted to live with constant environmental uncertainty, rather than perfectly adapting to just one specific habitat. So instead of evolving the perfect camouflage for a single forest, or, developing biology to hoard water for one specific desert, we literally evolved to handle uncertainty itself. Adaptability became our actual biological niche. We essentially became the ultimate generalists in a world full of specialists. And man, that adaptability was pushed to the absolute limit. Remember those severe mega-droughts that hit Africa around 135,000 years ago? Well, our ancestors actually found a life-saving refuge at the coast. The oceans acted as this brilliant buffer against inland starvation. But here's the really cool part. It wasn't just about filling their stomachs. They were feasting on marine foods, like shellfish, that were absolutely packed with highly specific nutrients. We're talking long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, iodine, and copper. These nutrients acted like an absolute evolutionary supercharger for the growth of brain tissue. This was especially huge for pregnant women and developing kids, drastically leveling up executive functions and memory. You can really see the physical results of this. Our actual bodies and our brains transformed directly in response to these new coastal diets and these intense climate challenges. Just look at the skeletal evolution. Starting from early ancestors like Lucy, living over 3 million years ago, she was pretty small with a much smaller brain capacity. But as we completely shifted our diets, processed way more complex foods, and somehow survived that whole climate roller coaster, the modern Homo sapiens skeleton eventually emerged. Our brains just grew larger and way more complex. That allowed for specialized tools and super intricate social structures. We weren't just surviving anymore. Biologically, we were leveling up big time. And that directly ties into the incredible success story of our species compared to other hominids. Now, sure, Neanderthals were definitely capable. They occasionally scavenged near the water. But Homo sapiens? We took it to a whole new level. We systematically integrated marine resources into our daily lives at a wildly higher intensity. We didn't just stumble upon a random oyster. No, we methodically tracked the tides, we harvested shellfish all year round, and we built complex settlement systems connecting the coast to the inland. And we kept this lifestyle going for hundreds of thousands of years. It was a completely transformed, totally radical way of interacting with the world around us. Okay, so with these bigger brains and complex coastal lives, something else absolutely mind-blowing happened: a language level up. Genetic mutations for better vocal control drastically shifted what we could do. First, just a slight improvement in our vocal anatomy gave us a 150-word vocabulary. That meant we could finally assign personal names within a group. And once you have names, you can actually start delegating specific survival tasks. Fast forward a few thousand years, and another mutation expands that to a 600-word survival vocabulary. Suddenly, early humans can name specific rivers, mountains, and actually execute highly complex, cooperative strategies. The whole idea here is that any improvement in vocabulary would have allowed a group's leader to delegate jobs so much more efficiently. Early language really was the ultimate evolutionary tool. Imagine you're an ancient leader. You find a cave, but it has a tiny entrance. Now you can explicitly say, "Hey John, you're strong, come move these boulders." Or maybe you spot a beehive high up in a tree. You can say, "Steve, you're super fast, go climb that tree." It completely revolutionized teamwork. It allowed our ancestors to minimize risks and navigate completely weird, unfamiliar terrains together. Language was literally the glue that made global migration possible in the first place. So how exactly did that massive global migration play out? Well, that brings us to a huge, ongoing debate in paleoanthropology. It's basically a showdown between two main ideas. On one side, we have the multi-regional theory. This one suggests that when Homo erectus left Africa around 2 million years ago, all those different populations kind of stayed loosely connected and slowly evolved into modern humans regionally all over the world. But on the flip side, we have the out-of-Africa theory. This asserts that modern humans evolved relatively recently in just one specific place, Africa, and then burst out, migrating globally and completely replacing all the other existing hominid populations without really blending into them. Now, while the debate has been pretty fierce over the years, the archaeological, genetic, and anatomical evidence, it really heavily points to the out-of-Africa model. Armed with those big brains, incredibly diverse diets, and complex language, our highly adaptable ancestors just rapidly spread across the globe. And we aren't just talking about walking into Europe and Asia here. Nope. By 65,000 years ago, early modern humans were moving so efficiently that they literally crossed open ocean water to reach the Andaman Islands. And remarkably, there's evidence they used boats to reach Australia as early as 62,000 years ago. Just let that sink in for a second. As researcher John Stewart really hit the nail on the head with this one. He noted that humans are just inherently built to cope with a massive variety of things. And something in our evolution absolutely must have made that so. Those extreme climate challenges of the past, the drying out of the African grasslands, the intense freezing ice ages, the constantly shifting coastlines, they didn't break us. Actually, they forged our absolute greatest biological trait, adaptability. We survived because we learned to completely embrace change, rather than just hide from it. And since we all carry this exact same legacy today, you and I are the direct descendants of the people who survived those epic climate swings, unlocked brain-boosting coastal diets, and literally invented complex language from scratch. So I want to leave you with one final thought. How are you using your evolutionary gift of adaptability today? When the environment around you shifts and changes, do you resist it or do you adapt? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Never forget the absolutely incredible survivor story written right into your very DNA. Catch you next time.